I was telling someone when they were talking about Chuck retiring, there will come a day when we're all in the room and it'll be like discussions of what people have experienced on a mission trip with Chuck.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm really so glad I got to go on a trip with him because that number will decrease over time. Like right now, everybody's been on a mission trip with Chuck, and he is like this incredible person on mission trip. You're like, I just love you so much. You're so amazing.
I don't think we'll have a moment to do that before he goes to be with Jesus, because I think he's going to be around here forever. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think there's ever going to be this moment where like, all right, goodbye, Chuck. We've had such a great relationship. I think he's always going to be around.
He's
somehow.
so invested here in the relationship, so engaged with everyone, and loves people, man. But you're right. There's something unique about the Chuck on mission trip.
Yeah.
And it's a different Chuck.
Are you a different Jennifer on a mission trip?
Nope. I'm a lot more flexible and a lot more laid back because usually I'm not leading the mission trip.
Yes.
I'm just on the mission trip.
Yeah.
So I pull back some, hang out with people. I'm a lot more flexible and laid back because I believe that being flexible on a mission trip is the greatest gift you could get.
That's one of the cool things about being a staff member at this church is when you go on a mission trip, you aren't in charge. Like Chuck has been intentional about like recruiting really high capability people that are volunteers. And so I went to Ecuador with Jerry Edrington and Eric Campbell. I was like, this is incredible. Like I'm just hanging out, like building friendships with teenagers that were on the trip. And they literally did all the thinking and working. And I was like, this is awesome.
This was on the Guatemala trip we just did with the student seniors. We're sitting in this building. It's a little open air, and the one side has got glass and closed in. And so a few of us sitting at the table, and there's a couple of girls talking pretty close. And man, it's this massive, I don't know what it was, but the windows just like those, loud noise. And we were like, what's this? And then we felt the earthquake. And so we're like, wow, earthquake, wow. And so these girls, a couple of girls are close by, and I'm like, whoa, did y'all feel that? And they just still talking, and wait, what? We're all like, that was an earthquake. They didn't even notice. And I was like, that's how they would just into it, all talking the same.
I have to say that I had no idea.
Yeah.
There was still not mentioned to me that she experienced an earthquake. That's
it
wild.
was. We were like, wow, earthquake. And they were like, really? They were just talking away, missed the whole thing.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, do you want to go ahead and jump right in?
Let's jump right in. We've got a full show.
Do we?
We do.
Do you have questions? Do you know what you're going to ask?
What do you mean? Like, what? Let's get it started.
Hello, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast from the City Rise Network. Hosted by Jennifer Dennis and produced by me, Justin Kello. We're a podcast that was supposed to be focused on parenting, but we've kind of lost the plot along the way. Honestly, we don't know what this podcast is about, but we talk to incredible people who love Jesus, and our hope is to provide encouragement and fun whenever possible. If our lack of clear direction bothers you, we apologize, but no one is making you listen to this podcast, unless you're married to Jennifer. Andy, thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We are so excited about our guest today and all the things that we will discuss. So welcome.
Yeah.
Justin, I have to begin the show with explaining a little bit of something from our last show.
Okay.
In the beginning, we talked about Jared and Gage, who came, and they were fantastic guests. And the show was so great.
It was so good.
I do feel like I'm wasting my life and not spending more time
oh my gosh.
in a disciplined walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
They were really just such a high standard setting. But at the beginning of the episode, Jared was talking about when he met me, he remembered I said something about Andy.
Yeah.
And part of it was that he loved Jesus.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't say the other part. And I'm just like, what is it? What is it?
Yeah.
So finally, after the show was over, you guys had all gone home and gone to bed.
Off. Yeah.
I was like, Jared, what were you talking about? And then Jared remembered that the question wasn't, why did you choose Andy? It was what keeps you guys
together,
strong and together after 20 years. That's a completely different answer.
Yeah.
And so part of the answer was that Andy adores Jesus. And the other part was that we keep a strong life together as a couple. Like we make time for each other romantically.
Oh,
so
okay.
I said that. Like,
Yeah.
that
What's funny is
they were very. We used to have to spend time focusing on that romantic part of the relationship.
It wasn't said that way, from what I understand. Though it was
maybe a little bit more
not blunt.
But
and I will say, Jared is a great friend for not bending to you, like trying to get him to say it, because you didn't remember what you said.
I had no idea.
Like, Come on, just say it. Come on, just say it. Come on, just say it. And like he was like, no, I'm not going to say it.
Bless him.
So he really stood up for your honor there.
What do you like about someone is completely different than what's kept you guys together for 20 years.
Yes.
So moving on. I wanted to answer that because I know people are watching that like, what are they talking about?
Okay, well, let's avoid any awkward questions like that. Stay with our guests, okay? Like, let's not even bring that up.
If in the future they go, I don't feel like I should say something.
You should just leave it at
I'm
that.
going to say, I totally get it. I'm not going to bag it out of them.
You learned your lesson.
So how are you doing this week? Everything going well?
Things great, man. We're just trucking to summer now because spring break's over. So it's like a roller coaster ride all the way down. I think
that the time between spring break and summer,
Easter especially, once you get Easter done,
wow.
For you're in summer mode. Like you're like, it's summer.
Straight into summer mode. Yeah. Like maybe one extra day.
But you've got to sprinkle in graduation obligations and chaos.
Yes, which is huge. But it for real, after Easter to summer is like one breath, which is so crazy, you guys, because January lasted for 3 years.
That's awful.
And then all of a sudden, hey, you're in April.
Yep.
I know that there's not a matrix, but if there was a matrix, that'd be
the glitch.
That would be the biggest clue.
January is so long.
That we're in January for 6 months and nobody realizes it. But you're doing good.
Doing great.
Just enjoying the weather.
Today.
I'm excited about our guest today, and I think you guys will be too. So today, we're really excited to be introducing you for the first time to our new City Rise missions pastor, Rynie Badenhorst.
Hooray.
Did I do that all correctly?
You did pretty good. So Badenhorst, definitely how it goes in the U.S. So elsewhere, they'd say Badenhorst.
Badenhorst.
But I'm laughing because my kids don't even say that right anymore. They had the announcement at school, or did the pledge, and I was like, wait, hey, that's not your last name. What is this?
So what is it?
So I say we, and I have different feet in different places, but Badenhorst is how Badenhorst.
What is the origin of it?
So Badenhorst is German. It's actually a little out of one of the bigger cities. It was like an outpost.
Okay.
And so early detection. And so when you're from Badenhorst, it just meant like, that's where you're from. It was the name of this little outpost that was an early defense in the, medieval days. And that's it. The Badenhorst, the town is still there till today. Yeah.
But you're not from there.
No. So,
have you been to visit?
So I actually have the family book. I've seen actually the homestead from the 1500, and this is the history in Europe still standing with engravings and the original furniture, why is it still there? But I love to see it. I would love to see it.
Furniture.
Yeah. So maybe too heavy to get out of it, but would love to see it one day. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. That's amazing that you can trace back your lineage that far to this town in Germany.
It helps that it's his last name.
It does help. That narrows it.
Yeah.
That's a narrowing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Badenhorst.
Badenhorst.
That's carries.
But for those that don't know, you grew up in South Africa?
South Africa, yes. So born in there, grew up in South Africa, and then just got the travel bug. So we were part of the Commonwealth, which back then there was this big thing where you could go and travel international for 2 years on this. I'm trying to remember the name of the visa. So most people, Commonwealth, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, there was this exchange. So you just go and do this working holiday and so work and move on and see different countries that was part of the Commonwealth. So it was kind of a big thing. And so also South Africa growing up was under the previous regime. We were isolated. It was just closed in. So it was this big, like, we want to get out and go see the world, So it was a big thing. Just, I guess the travel bug got me there. So
you were, okay, so you partnered and you left South Africa at that point to go travel for 2 years.
It was a 2 year travel. Oh, you can go up to 2 years
so
just as long as you're in a Commonwealth country. So I went to London first, and then I think, it was Wales and we did Scotland. I'm trying to think if I made it to Ireland that trip. If Ireland was part of, maybe that was a day day trip, but that was the main. And then, there's little, hey, let's go see parts of Europe for a weekend or a week. If you have enough money saved up, then you take a trip and go.
Now, is this when you
areas.
connected with your Australian wife, or is that another time?
So got in oil and gas. So I think me and you talked a little bit about this before. I actually, after just high school, I went to seminary, was a youth pastor at a church there for a couple of years, and then went traveling, and so went into oil and gas later on, and then so when you're in oil and gas, all roads sooner or later leads to Houston. If you want to or not, it's going to happen. And so Tricia was on the same thing. So she came over for oil and gas from Australia because their company's headquarters was in Houston as well. And so I don't know if I shared this story how we actually met, but I came over here and we play rugby as the sport, where we're from. We played rugby, and it's kind of like flag football. They call it touch rugby. And we were both playing that. And I think it was like the North America and some of the South American national finals were in Houston that year. And there was a men's team, women's team, a co-ed team. And they said, do you want to play for the men or co-ed? And I was like, I've never played in a co-ed team. I don't know, wherever you need me. And they put me in that team. And Tricia and I was in the same team. We didn't know each other. We trained together, but, so it was, in the sport. And I think it was our team made the quarterfinals. And I don't know what, it's a long story, but I ran into her full speed. Knocked her, fell on top of her, knocked her out. She's done. So eyes rolled back and she is out. And I literally I killed this girl. And the medics came up and, they getting her off. And I'm like, whoa, what just happened? And so that's where everything started. We were just like, it was a sport relationship and then nothing more. But that's where it all happened. That was the point. So the guys still, joke with me till today. Best tackle of your life. It's really a girl and it's somebody
She's
from
pretty
your
amazing.
team.
I have to agree.
And so I'm like, hey,
tackle.
That's how we do it where I'm from. You sweep them off their feet literally, and that's it. So
that's wild.
That's where it all started. I mean,
that
it was literally our worlds collided.
I think one time, so we were in small group. I don't know if you know that we were in the same
You have been in small group
group
with everybody, apparently. That's like everyone's story on this show. It's like, well, we were in a Bible study.
Yeah,
group, so
I must say she's there for like 20 minutes and she's gone. So maybe she's got 3 or 4
I
of
do.
this
I'm
time.
attending like 8 or 9 small groups, community groups. But I remember Tricia, we were talking about, we always do a get to know you in our community group. And we're talking about either some kind of what would you do instead of, or what would be your side job or your second job. And I want to say Tricia said that she would be a race car driver. And I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
And she's always so calm spoken and friendly. And I was like, what? And it just threw my whole brain. And now to find out she played rugby, I don't know that I know her that well.
When you look at the package, you don't see that. And so we were engaged. And so she was like all into muscle cars. I'm like, what? And, in Australia, they like the stick shift. And I'm like, what? And so one time, I think it was, the Ford Mustang Shelby? That was her muscle car. And so my truck was in for a service, company truck. And they had one. And we were like, can we go for a test drive? And they're like, no, they had like I think they called it a Mustang Bullet. It's like the one step down because they don't want you to take the others out. But so I said, hey, my truck is out, come pick me up. And so actually I just got it there and they're like, hey, go test drive this car. So the guy said, because there's not really a back seat, you all just go for it. Didn't even ask our licenses, anything. So I go first and I stall it going out of the dealership, I-10 West dealership for it. And I'm just like, and everybody's standing out there. I'm like, and I drive around on I-10, get back in. And so we get back, stop. Tricia gets in and the American word, I guess, is peels it out of there. Smoke out. I kid you not. We go on. I don't even want to tell you. I was screaming like crazy, just holding on in and out of traffic. I don't even want to tell you what speed we were going. And I was like, go back. Yeah, we're done here. We don't need this anything like this. But so I realized she was really into that more than I could handle.
That's so funny. So you have moved into this role, and we were just talking about at the beginning before we were setting up the podcast. You came on the stage in this position the week after dinner, the week of dinner and deploy. That is like becoming the coach of a Super Bowl, of a team at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it's the Super Bowl. Here's your coach. Halftime. That's basically what happened to you.
It was, so it was hilarious because, they did the introduction at dinner and deploy. And so, that night right after, people already, hey, we got to meet. And I was like, I don't even have an office yet or an email. I'm actually starting on Monday, so give me a little time. But so it was, just a crazy busy time with everybody signing up and trying to make that happen. And then you immediately,
how many mission trips have you been on since dinner and deploy?
So I want to say we're at number 3. There's 1 or 2 that we were going to go and got canceled. There's one I literally got back. And then, one of the team leads had kidney stones. And because I might go, but I was like just kind of saying that. And then I was like, okay. So I just got back, threw my clothes in the washing machine, put them back in the bag and turned right around and went on the next trip. But it was fun. Yeah.
It's been, so you've been to, in the last, what, 2 months, you've been to Guatemala,
El Salvador. We're heading to Belize shortly. I'm trying to think if there was another one in there.
There's one other one in there. There was one before you went to, where did you go right before you went to Guatemala?
So we had a trip scheduled for Belize. I think I was actually at the airport to go. And then there was the Stitch and Chuck and them had weather coming in from Dallas and Corpus. And so that one, I think got canceled. But I was ready to go. I was already at the airport waiting on them. So yeah. Yep.
And so, all right. So what, how did you come to be interested in this role? How did you feel like this would be a fit for you?
So, goes way back. My first mission trip with City Rise, we kind of still new in the church, maybe a couple of years. And one Sunday back then, they had it like, I think they called it kind of Deploy Sunday or something. They just had tables set out, up front on the Sunday. And some of the partners were out there. And so I got out of church and wanted to go up to the small group. And so, all these people there, and I was literally like don't make any eye contact. Let's just get through here. I want to go to Bible study. And Miss Pearl Chu, I don't know if you all know her. She's right at the stairs where you go up with a little table for Thailand. She's got a ministry in Thailand. And she's like, hey, you should go on this trip. And I'm like, lady, who are you? And well, and so she started talking to me and she was really like, I think you should go on this trip. And I'm like, I have little kids. My kids were really small and there was one on the way and she's like, go ask your wife. I'm like, that's easy. She's going to say no. Ask Trisha and she's like, you know what? Maybe you should go on this.
Wow.
And that, I didn't even know what I signed up for. And so we got there at midnight the night in Thailand. They wake up at 5 to do Bible study and for an hour and we had to go as well. And so hardly had sleep, straight into max security prisons. And I was like, whoa, And so, but it was a really tough trip. The time changes nearly 12 hours. So that, I think that set the tone because after that, everything was pretty easy. But it's just because she really, called me out of just, you should go. And I was like, I don't even know who you are, lady. And what is this? And so that's how I actually got to go on the first trip with
really?
Chuck. Yeah.
With Chuck. Yes. That's so, like when I met you the first time is during Harvey. Yeah. You and I were both somehow, we were stationed in the gym. You too. Yeah. You too, Justin. We were all stationed in the gym. And my job was to clear the gym, to get people, because they would dump unbelievable things in the gym and it would come in a truck at a time and I would have to get rid of the stuff out of the gym. And you were getting people to go to people's homes and to fix people's homes. And you were also.
All the mucking and gutting,
all of that. And you were out front. Directing people.
I'm more just like a greeter.
You're great.
Hey, y'all are doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah.
So I remember that being my first encounter and I thought, this dude could do anything.
Yeah.
This guy's so like Maverick Knife. This is amazing.
Thank you.
So when your name came up, and of course, I know your children, they've been in our ministry, your family is wonderful.
Yeah.
It wasn't a shock to me that you would be part of leading our missions ministry.
Oh, thank you.
So we've all been really excited. And everyone who hears about it is just like, well, of course. That's such a great fit.
Thanks.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you would like to see, that you want to see going forward?
Yeah. So
not like different from what's happened, but what are you excited
What
about?
trips are you going to cut? Who's on the chopping block?
You heard it here
Who
first.
are we tired of helping?
Who are we tired of helping?
Yeah.
So what are some things that are your heart?
Yeah. So, and part of that is, some of the classes, and Justin and I touched base on some of the classes I take. He actually helped me with some of the media classes and different things that I had to finish up with. But, missiology, and you learn how to look at ministries, and you dig in the finances and what's the vision and all this stuff. And so, each time you look at that, and especially kind of fresh, you're like, oh, this, that, and all these questions and things come up. And how about, are you doing this? And are you spending time doing this? And, are you helping other people to all this ministry? Says, there's all these questions that you had. I'm sure I'm driving some of our partners and people we collaborate with nuts already. But, I think at the end of the day, it's going to, like Roger says, challenge them a little bit, but hopefully take them to the next level. But, I think just what Chuck has built in this little time is pretty impressive.
It's really impressive.
It's going to be big shoes to fill, and it's kind of nice starting from that point and building on. So, but yeah, just working with the partners closely. Chuck had a lot of things on his plate as well. He has wearing many hats. Luckily, one of the hats I'm wearing is probably not going to be as busy yet. We're planning ahead, but it's going to, get me really busy. So I got a little time to really digging and spend time with the partners and just really build out where they go in and make sure they're focused on what their calling is as well. We had one of the partners recently wanted to start something big in a new country. And so a couple of us got involved and said, is that really your core calling? Because we don't see that. It's going to look good on the website and everything else, but we don't think this is your gift. And they're like, yeah, okay, great. And we connect them with another person in our network that could do that. And so that's the beauty of this massive network we built too, is you can, there's so much talent that we can just move around. And so yeah, that's one of the big things, but just working through that with the partners and the people we're collaborating with. And hey, where can we come alongside you? And some of them, they're at such a good place where we kind of step back a little, introduce them to other groups that'll help too. We've done that with a few where we're not front and center every time they need something or make this happen. It was like, hey, they have 3 or 4 different groups to pull from. And I think that's part of the beauty, is just getting them to diversify as well and not just look at City Rise to be there, all and everything at the end of the day.
I know one of the challenges is our trips fill up.
Yeah.
And they fill up fast. Do you feel pressure to create more capacity or more trips, or how do you manage that?
So I got a little cheat sheet over here with all our lists, but one of the ones that I've really got, a lot of pressure on, and especially with the family trips, because we got 2 to Dominican Republic, but like this year, the amount of people that signed up, it's kind of like, whoa. So we had like, hey, we kind of overbooked. If anybody don't want to go, don't feel pressure. There's always next year. But Stitch is actually starting a new setup in El Salvador. Robbie and I was down there to look at the staff house, and we're going to be involved with setting that up for the family. So hopefully by next summer, we'll have an extra family trip. Plus, some of the people say, hey, man, we've been to DR like 6 times. And don't you have something else for family trips? And it really makes it easier because Stitches, that's what they do. So if we get the people there, it's a lot easier. We still have group leaders to lead. But versus the other trip where we got to make the accommodations, the transport, a lot of the things we're very intimately involved with. So that's what I'm excited about. Hopefully next summer we'll have an extra trip to El Salvador.
That's really exciting because you're right. Everybody loves, and you're getting close to the age to where you're going to take your family.
People say that. I don't know. I don't know if I want to take the circus on the road yet.
I will, but I do think, man, as far as families serving together, the DR is just an incredible experience, and it's so well done. And where you get to stay and the things that you get to do are so meaningful. So and Stitch that creates the language partners, and they give you ways to invest in the language partners, the families that are there serving. the people that you're reaching out to, their families, their connections, like you feel completely just like that you're pouring out to everyone in the experience. And it's like you're teaching ESL, you're working with little kids, you're doing an evening VBS, you're, then you're woodworking or you're working in a medical clinic. It's like everything you might want to do is on this trip. And so I do think it's really exciting. I hope you guys do get to get that going in El Salvador, because I think we have so many more families that would be interested in going.
We have a lot of families, and it's kind of heartwarming that families are willing to do that. And because for our family, it was a game changer after we went to our first one, because you kind of tell kids about these things and hey, there's people you can help. And so the first one, we went into one of the Haiti I think they call it informal settlements, but it's just little sink huts. And we went with my family in their house, and gave them food and spent a little time with them. And my kids were like, hey, where's the rest of the rooms? It's like, no, this is it. This is the kitchen, bathroom, they sleep on the dirt floor. And you could see that. You could see a few things. They started, hey, like when you do your VBS offering, like, oh, this is where it's going. So I loved, because I could see a lot of the dots were getting connected. And then, when we came back, my daughters both were like, we want to be baptized. And so it was really, I could see going full circle, because you tell them about things and, we do some serving, but it's just, wow, these people don't have anything. And one of the things for me on the DR trip, I'm sometimes a type A, want to get stuff done. And so we had to make these furniture and with the kids, and, it was benches for orphanage stitch works. And I was like, yeah, get the drills, get going. Hey, you do that, you do this. And, I was with oil and gas project manager on some of the biggest projects. And so, I'm just like, hey, do this, get this, let's get this done. Hey, we're 10 minutes in, where we're at. And Russell, the big guy, Stitch.
Russell?
Yeah,
he's amazing.
He kind of like, come here. I'm like, okay. He called me aside and he's like, hey, I really appreciate the passion, but this is about bonding with family and the group. It's we don't have a timeline. You're missing the point. And I was like, kind of nearly embarrassed, but I'm like, man, he's so right. But
you're right.
I get so let's get this done. That I missed the whole one it was for. And I just went, okay, let's take it back down to, first gear and get it done.
Did you drive in the DR yet? Have you done that?
DR, no, but
I'm terrified. It is wild.
Yeah.
It is the Wild West of driving.
Yeah.
I would want to. I don't think I would have the bravery.
Sat in the front of the bus once, and I was I'm not doing that again.
Because I get car sick, I always had to sit at the very front of the bus. And I saw us almost die 17 times.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, and nobody sees it. Yeah. They're all talking about their day.
Especially with a bus having no nose. So it's like you right here.
Yes. And they bring their whole family. They're a whole family on a motorcycle. And mom's on the back with the infant. There are 4 of them. And it is wild. So I'm always wondering who. I think Tony has tried to drive. I don't know how they do it.
Who's Tony?
I don't remember Tony Gray. Tony Gray.
Tony Gray.
Tony Gray is driven.
Okay,
I think he's driven.
So I've heard he's he drives. So I think like Kenya, a couple of us drove. I know Ben was like, "What are you guys doing driving?" But we were out in the sticks. There's nothing there. And but it definitely it's a little different, especially if you add stick shift in the whole thing. It gets a little wild. Interesting. Yeah,
I think that's really exciting. The ideas that you have coming up, the things that you'd like to see happen.
Yeah.
What's your best advice for a family right now? Are people wanting to get involved or curious about what's happening? What's their go-to?
Yeah. And so for me is just if they have questions, reach out to me or Chuck or Emily or even one of the others, the group leaders, like for families, Rami or Mark Wong, they can give you a lot of details and things to consider. And, hey, how do you do this? Because a lot of times you think your kids are maybe too young and some of the trips can cater to it, some not. And, so hopefully, if they're interested, just ask questions, sign up. I mean, for us, I'm just thinking the first time we went to DR, there's a couple of things that just, when we got there, the louvered windows, my kids were like, what? whoa, everything can come in here. And they were freaking out about that. I'm like, hey, at least you have windows. And then in the bathroom, I guess to get ventilation going, whoever is in the room next to you, the family, there's this big hole up there. That I wish somebody just told us that the first time. But you can hear everything. The bathrooms are right next to each other. And, so the rest of the trip, we try to figure out who's next to us, because you just like go as quiet as possible. And do they know we're next to them? And so I tell all the families, hey, make sure you want to be quiet in the bathroom or whatever you talk about. It's echoing all through.
We're hearing all of it.
So yeah, but other than that, I mean, it's really a great trip. Plus once you go on a mission trip with somebody, it just feels like you're suddenly on a much deeper level. The families as well on the DR trip, it feels like the older kids just take care of the kids on the compound.
Yes.
And the adults can kind of be adults because the older kids, it's a thing of beauty. It's really, see how the whole community
part, the whole community part it's really cool.
Beautiful.
Well, Rynie, we're just excited about you being in this space. We do like to end our podcast with a get to know you question.
Sure.
So when do you think, where was the time in your life when you thought you were going to get in the most trouble ever?
We'll answer this too, unless you already know.
I know mine.
What is
already?
Yours?
I was just talking about this with Officer Troy, which is probably not a good idea because I think my activity was illegal in retrospect.
Wow.
So this is a big.
Wow.
Here you go.
Yeah.
I bounced a check to my college.
Oh,
I bounced a check unwittingly, I think. And back in those days, checks took a few days, like back in the old days. You didn't just, it wasn't, you could actually like mail them a check or write them a check. They would take the check, they would clear whatever was happening and you would move forward. And then a few days later, it would be like, oh, there was no money in your account. Yeah. Now they're immediately like, there's no money in your account. Like it takes seconds. So I thought that I would just go back. I got, I don't know if they called me or emailed me. I don't even know if they could have. It was way back when. But they did write a letter with a warrant for my arrest.
Wow.
I did not know that it was some sort of, it was a law that you can't bounce a check to a college. But they immediately sent out a warrant for my arrest.
Wow.
Ironically, it was the only piece of mail my dad ever opened for me.
Oh, that's
was
great.
The warrant for my arrest.
That's great.
And when he got that, he crossed over into a different human being.
Wow.
I have never heard him yell at me so like quietly, so fast.
Wow.
Yeah.
And described to me what prison was going to be like for me. And that's the most trouble. Like my mom was there, the whole family sitting around. And we have to go clear it up. We've got to go close my bank account. We have to go deal with this warrant. My mom was devastated. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't put this on the podcast now that I think about it.
I think you're fine.
I think they canceled it.
Check.
They've canceled it. It's years past. But I think as far as getting in trouble, that was probably the most significant moment where I was like, this is going to end really poorly.
I'll say for me, it was mostly as a child because that's when I did.
I would think your mouth would got you in a lot of trouble.
Thanks for saying that. I will say there's two instances, both involving my dad. One, there on Interstate 35 in Texas, there's this thing called Interspace Caverns, which is just like, poor man's Carlsbad Caverns. Like it's not that cool.
Oh, okay.
But we went as a child and, they kind of make, hey, don't pick up rocks forever. If everybody takes a rock, then, there's no rocks for everybody to see next time.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm taking this rock. So I picked up a rock and, put it in my pocket and we get back to my grandmother's house we were visiting. And my dad's like, oh, you took a rock? He's like, police are going to come, which I don't know why a father would say that to a child, but he did. And I was like convinced for a few hours. I was like, I'm in trouble. Like this is a situation. And then another time, this is really kind of bizarre. So like my dad was a limo driver. And so our family car growing up was a limousine. And so when we'd go to see him, that's what, that's what we rode in was limousine. And limousines have sunroofs. Okay. And so we had just gone to see the movie Free Willy. And Free Willy, I mean, my dad was like in a neighborhood. He wasn't like on a major road, but the thing was open. And so we're like, get out and pretend we're like, we put our hands out of the sunroof acting like we're riding Free Willy.
Sure.
As one does. And then we get pulled over by cops. And I'm just like, we're going to jail like this. It never crossed my mind that my dad was the one in trouble, not me.
Yeah.
It was like, he is the responsible adult. I'm 8. But I was like, this is it. We're going to jail.
You're acting
for
out
pretending
Free Willy
for pretending
in a
to be Free
limousine
Willy.
in small town Texas.
Yeah, I was convinced I was going to
That
jail.
would have been a great short story right there.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Rynie.
So mine, I think I was 8 years old at school. So man, the school system when I grew up was really strict. I mean, it was like regimental. But in any case, the bell rings, and I think my best buddy and I, that for some reason you always want to be in front of the line. Everybody lines up, and then the principal makes his little morning speech, and then everybody goes to their classes. But we get to the front of the line, and we're kind of elbowing each other, and the principal in front of everybody. He's up the stairs, calls us out. As an 8-year-old in front of the whole school, we're like, oh, this is the end of the world. And he's just like, hey, it's Friday, but come and see me Monday. You're going to get it. So now you have the whole weekend, and we're like, just kind of like, lip whimpering 8-year-old. Oh, we're going to see the principal in his office. So all weekend, Saturday morning, we get together and like, whoa, what does this mean? And we ask some of the older guys, and they're like, yeah, you're going to get it. I mean, he's going to give it to you. He's got all these, different sticks behind his door, and, he's going to make you pick one, and then you're probably going to get at least 3 or something, and you're behind. And we're like, oh my goodness. So one of the guys like, what you do is you take like an inner tube, the rubber, and, I grew up in Africa. So somehow we got one somewhere big enough, cut a piece out to fit in your behind, put it in your pants. And that'll help. And, so we do that, and we're like, hey, that still hurts. And we do another one. And, I don't know where we ended up, but it was like 12 layers. So we walk in, Monday at school, these little skinny kids, and the principal's like, I go first. And I mean, he must have, because I mean, there's no way he didn't realize. He takes the rod,
paddle,
and he gives me the first one, and that thing just ricocheted with a, and he's like, what just happened? And I'm like, I'm dead. This isn't, and he starts laughing and laughing. And so that's it. But he's like, when you go out, act like you're crying. So your buddy's waiting outside. And, and obviously I'm sure the same thing happened because my buddy was like, but that was just the whole weekend waiting for
the paddle ricocheted off your rear.
Yeah, because when he hit it, it was all these, layers of rubber. And it just like, I remember looking back and his face was like, and then he started laughing because he realized, but I thought it's the end of the world leading into that. The
so
whole weekend
funny.
to ponder seeing the principal in front, as an 8-year-old, it was the longest weekend of my life.
Awesome.
As a little kid, you don't know what goes on in there. You've never seen the inside, and then the older kids just make it 3 times worse than it is. You're like, oh, it's really bad.
Look at the
scary.
the impressive nature of it. The
incredible.
Preparation was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think I love that we're part of a church that is always passionate about sharing the good news of Jesus all around the world in the community. And so thank you for coming on and joining us here on the show and here at the church and continuing to be part of that.
Yeah, if you'd like to learn more about our mission team and opportunities for you to serve, you can visit cityrise.org/missions any time of the year. There'll be information there. So as mission groups close up, new ones open up. It just depends on when you go visit the website. So go check that out if you're interested in learning more. You can always email us at podcast@cityrise.org if you have suggestions for people we can talk to. And please rate, review, subscribe, send this to people, like it, so we can get the word out about what our church is doing here and around the world.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rynie.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
Justin.
What are you doing grabbing your phone on the way out? Like what are you
I realized
doing?
that I have a meeting.
Out of here.
You were just...
I realized I had a meeting and I got a little worried about it. We hope you've had an almost amazing time. Hold on. Hey guys, we hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Almost Amazing Podcast from the City Rise Network based in Houston, Texas. City Rise is a partnership of church campuses, nonprofits, and missionaries devoted to lifting our city and the world by generously giving the gospel of Jesus Christ. For more information or to find a church campus close to you in the Houston area, visit cityrise.org.